Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting the Davies versus Robles fight. If you are new around here though and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into it. So going into this fight, Davies is 15-0 with 7 KOs and Robles is 15-1 with 9 KOs. This fight is for the vacant IBO World Super Bantamweight title. Davies' last fight was a win via TKO in round 5 versus La Femina. And Robles' last fight was a win via unanimous decision versus Espinoza. This is in Davies' home country of England, and Robles is a southpaw. To speak a bit more about what I've mentioned there, and the card in general, I'm going to speak a little bit more about in a moment. Like I've mentioned, it's for this vacant IBO World title. It's a belt which Robles has already won. He won it in impressive fashion versus McGregor last year, and he's then gone on to kind of vacate it and then fight over in Mexico again, just to, I suppose, keep active. And now obviously he's got this opportunity to fight for the belt again and win it again, and credit to him for yet again coming over to the UK to take a fight where he is very heavily the away fighter. And he managed to succeed, of course, last time going to McGregor's home country as well of Scotland, and there was a lot of pressure on McGregor, and Robles really showed some flaws in McGregor's game, and has that typical Mexican type style. He's not crazily powerful, but he's got that typical Mexican type style, like I mentioned, and he's really going to be in your face, pushing the pressure. And I'll speak a bit more about him in a moment, but he's going to make fights difficult for you, and he's going to also make fights entertaining in the process. Davies, he's on a great run at the moment. He's got a lot of momentum with him. That last fight though, it showed not weaknesses, but a couple little bits of possible overconfidence, and the fact that he did end up getting caught with a shot which did drop him in that third round, which was a very entertaining round where Davies showed his power, showed his good timing, but also then showed that he can get caught with shots, and sometimes he can be a bit off balance. And Femina was there to get hit, and he was there to get timed. Robles is going to be there to get hit, and so if Davies can use his timing again, then maybe he'll be able to find success. But it's interesting to see Davies now being made into a power type puncher. When he was coming up, he was never really seen as too much of a power puncher, but he is now, with his timing as well, becoming that of a bit of a power puncher, and with the excited and high output that he's gaining, and the fact he will probably try to overwhelm you, he, like I mentioned, is becoming a more entertaining fighter to watch, and is being built very well, and is now in a fight which, it's for a world title. Obviously it's not a huge one, but it's classed as a world title nonetheless, and it's a very exciting crossroads fight in my opinion. I don't know if possibly if McGregor had kept progressing how he was and beaten Robles, if we would have seen McGregor versus Davies at this point. But that's by the by. Of course, we've got this fight now, and like I mentioned, a great card, magnificent 7 card for Queensbury, and hopefully I'm going to be there for a little bit of fight week for it this week. I'm going to be there most likely for the weigh-in, and then possibly fight night, hopefully fight night as well. As like I mentioned, it's a great card, and if you want to see any of the interviews I do, anything like that, that will be over on the Squared Circle Boxing YouTube channel. They'll be tagged in it on my Instagram and also on my X/Twitter as well. And so if you want any of that, they're in my bio of my YouTube as well. So you should be able to find any of my stuff if you're, like I mentioned, fancying watching any interviews I do from this card. And also, like I mentioned, great card, fighters like Joe Joyce on it, Dennis McCann on it, Pierce O'Leary on it, Zach Parker on it, and I'm not even just speaking about all them fights, but they are great fights, a lot of them, and they're good 50-50 fights. But the main event, which I did want to touch upon, Heaney versus Pauls for the British middleweight title. I don't always touch upon British title fights, but the fashion in which Heaney won it last time, it was a very dramatic yet entertaining fashion. He was kind of written off by everybody, and did show a game plan which was a bit different to possibly what we're used to from him, but he showed that he can box in multiple different ways, and he showed a lot of variety, and it was a very impressive step up performance that you need, and not every fighter can necessarily take that step up, but Heaney did it very well. He's now got this test against Pauls, which is another completely different style of fighter, who possibly on paper is going to make Heaney the favourite for this one. But with that big backing he always gets, he's going to still have that added pressure as well. And Pauls, we've had the pleasure of speaking to on this channel, and he is a very nice person, and he's deserved of this shot as well. He obviously had a close fight versus Tyler Denny, and it was that of a close fight. He's then kind of gone on back onto small hall shows and rebuilt himself and gotten back to this opportunity here again, and so he's deserving this shot. I think Heaney's going to be able to win again via unanimous decision. Like I mentioned, I feel like now Heaney has a bit more variety of the way that he can box, and possibly he might have that variety a little bit stronger than that of Paul's. And I think it's going to be a good fight, but in the end, a unanimous decision, like I mentioned, for Heaney. Going back to this fight that I'm talking about, though, Davies as a fighter, I mean, I've touched upon them both already a bit, but to go a bit more in depth, Davies, he will let his hands go. He's a quick starter. He's proved that in multiple fights, even with that of the Cunningham fight as well. Very quick, in your face type fighter, and even in his last fight, he very much showed that going onto the front foot straight away. Changes levels well, overwhelms you. He's got good pressure, good power, like I mentioned. He's got a good solid jab that he can utilise and set up his shots with quite nicely. And when he does start to set up his shots with it, that's when timing can improve as well. And sometimes in the early rounds, he can be a little bit too eager, but when he did get behind the jab in that Lafamina fight, he then did improve. He's got very good range management. He works very well at the mid-range. He's quite a compact fighter guard-wise. He can fight on the front or the back foot. He's got very good straight shots and likes to pump out the 1-2 with them two straight shots. He's got, like I mentioned, good timing, good shot variation. He's also now faced a bit of adversity, and it wasn't a huge knockdown or anything like that, but to face that adversity when he was in a position where he was quite confident and had a lot of momentum, I feel like it to an extent will definitely ground him and will bring him back down to maybe reality to an extent, and will showcase that he is now, he's not invincible and he can get hit with shots, but it's going to make him, in my opinion, not be too much force in the fight, which sometimes he can be. Negatives, I mean, obviously overconfidence can be a thing, rushing finishes can be a thing, trying to force the stoppage. Plants his feet a bit too long, in my opinion, and I don't think his footwork is amazing, and he can seem a bit off balance at times, and he's got an interesting type stance, quite, his legs quite close together. He's not physically that big. He can stand quite upright and look quite narrow, and it's an interesting type thing, build to an extent, and style and stance, I suppose. And like I say, his footwork isn't amazing. His chin can be in the air a bit at times. He's not as physical, like I mentioned. His head movement isn't amazing, and with the fact that the chin's in the air as well. Now he's been caught with a shot which had grounded him. It was, it was a flash knockdown. It wasn't anything massive, but maybe possible questions about the chin might be there, and Robles will be putting the pressure on, and so he will land shots. And like I mentioned, he's not overly powerful, but he's got a better knockout ratio than that of Davies, and so there's definitely still going to be something there. Sometimes Davies can load up on his shots a little bit too long, and of course he can be countered like he was in that Lafamina fight. To speak about Robles as a fighter, I mean, he's obviously got that underdog mentality. Of course, he's used to now going in somebody else's back garden and winning, and so he's gained that mentality. He's got a high output. He'll make you fight his fight, and that's pretty much what a lot of the Mexican fighters love to do: make you fight make them fight your fight. He works well in close. He outworks. He's got a good chin, very good chin. He took some big shots against McGregor and kept coming forward to big uppercuts. He's got good sustained combinations. He'll mentally break you down if you've not mentally got that physicality about you mentally. And I don't know if McGregor necessarily had that, and he showed that, and he showed the flaws in that. He did break him down. He gains a very good second win. There was a point in which you thought McGregor going into the 4th to 5th round will be able to start gaining a momentum and be able to outwork him and get him out of there in the end. And credit to Robles, he came in with that second win and really showcased that he is a quality fighter, and he's also a fast starter as well, Robles, and so it'll be interesting in the first couple of rounds how them go. Negatives about him: he's not as technical as that of Davies. He's not really got as good of a jab. He's not got amazing defensive movement either. He can become a bit tired as well, and wait. He can walk onto shots. He can. I suppose he's not necessarily always going to make the necessary adjustments. He did get caught constantly with that uppercut from McGregor and does walk onto shots, like I mentioned. He's not overly fast. He's there to be hit. Not overly powerful, but of course, like I mentioned, he does have them shots there, and so like I mentioned, typical Mexican type fighter to an extent. He doesn't have the amazingly good defensive movement, but he kind of uses his attack as a defense to an extent, and just uses his chin as a defense. And it's not always the best of things to do, and it means he can get time with shots, but he's willing to do that. And Davies is the favourite for this fight, and I think that Davies will win via TKO in round 9. I can see him stopping him. I think he's going to be able to time him into the later rounds, catch him with a shot. It would just be interesting to see how Davies is dealing with going into the later rounds. But if he can deal and keep is a bit of a gas tank there and not just blow his load in the first round, then I believe he will have the skills and the ability to be able to time him better on the back foot and possibly even land a couple combinations better than that McGregor when McGregor fought Robles, because McGregor was just kind of throwing out one shot constantly, and I think Davies will keep that range a little bit better, keep Robles off him a little bit more, and hopefully not just get stuck into a firefight with him, because that's definitely not what you're going to want to do. But yeah, like I mentioned, I think Davies will win. Then who he want to fight? I mean, some big fights hopefully on the table for him. The McCann versus Strand one is also on this card, and so possibly the winner of that could be made to fight Davies. That would be a great fight. Masood is another great option. There's been talks about Masood fighting on that Queensberry versus Matchroom card, and the winner of this fight could be it, or the winner of that McCann fight could fight on that card as well. Or if he's wanting a kind of a European type fighter who has fought at the top level, still is fighting relatively well, but has only really lost to some of the best. Doheny is a great option in my opinion, and will progress him even more through the rankings, world level wise. And like I mentioned, he's still fought some of the top guys and only really ever lost to the top guys. But yeah, that will be a good fight as well. But yeah, that is it for today's video. I hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did indeed like the video, subscribe if you are new, and thanks for watching.